How's it going on? This is the Anime Man. Unpopular opinions, you hate them, I debate them. Let's fight! That hurt my throat. We're back with another episode of Let's Fight, the show where I take all of your guys' absolutely trash-ass opinions and I make sure and guarantee that you guys know that it's a trash-ass opinion. Now, this is the 15th episode of Let's Fight, I believe. It's not often that I do a series, a long-running series like this, because I usually hate repeating concepts of whatnot, but for some reason, you guys really come through with these Let's Fight videos. I have a lot of fun because I get to talk about all sorts of different series and ideas that I really can't fit into a video of its own. And you guys are usually pretty good at giving me some hot takes and unpopular opinions about anime, manga, erogaze, hentai, the general otaku community. But with every good spicy opinion comes some not so good opinions. And by not so good opinions, I don't even necessarily mean opinions that are wrong or incorrect. I just mean opinions that really have no substance or value to them. And a lot of the times, those kinds of opinions go a little something like this. So-and-so anime is overrated. So-and-so anime is underrated.
So-and-so anime is rated.
That's right, I mentioned it in a previous Let's Fight episode, but a lot of y'all motherfuckers seem to think that if you just say so-and-so anime is overrated, so-and-so anime is underrated, that entitles you to an opinion, which it doesn't. Especially if you don't actually explain as to why so-and-so anime is overrated or underrated. And so in today's video, I wanted to cater to those motherfuckers who love giving me those kinds of opinions by asking you guys over on Twitter, what do you think is the most overrated anime series ever? Now, I'm sure it goes without saying, but with any opinion, you need to argue your point as to why you think that. In other words, you have to give me your reasons as to why you think a show is overrated. And let's just say that a lot of y'all don't really know how to listen or formulate an opinion, but I managed to pick up some of the more interesting ones, which I'm going to cover in today's episode. So without further ado, let's fucking fight! Haruhi Suzumiya no Yuutsu always stuck with me as being overrated. Maybe because I never got into waifu culture, but it felt obnoxious having all these characters do what this girl wants because she's god somehow. Okay, now personally, I fucking love Suzumiya Haruhi no Yuutsu. It was one of the first light novel series that I ever read. In fact, one of the first light novel series that really exploded into the general otaku public at the time. And I can tell you that the one thing that really makes Suzumiya Haruhi special is not so much Suzumiya Haruhi, the titular character, but rather Kyon, the main protagonist. At the time that Suzumiya Haruhi came out, it was very rare to see a main protagonist like Kyon, a main protagonist that was so aware of the fact that the situation that he was put in and the situation that everybody else was put in was so wacky, so bizarre, so just not really cool. And a main protagonist that, weirdly enough, a lot of the times antagonized the main heroine, Suzumiya Haruhi. Not antagonized in the way that they made Suzumiya Haruhi to be this like evil villain that was just trying to control everybody for her godlike tendencies. No, more so antagonize her in the way of criticizing her, in the way of criticizing her actions, criticizing the actions that caused such catastrophes that happened within the series that he unfortunately was dragged into. Kyon is a really interesting main protagonist because he's a main protagonist that didn't choose to be the main protagonist. In fact, weirdly enough, even though, yes, structurally, Tanikawa Nagara, the author, did set him up to be the main protagonist, the way that he draws the character of Kyon within the series makes it out to be that he almost wasn't destined to be the main protagonist of the story. It almost feels like the reader witnessed something that was purely coincidental, something that wasn't supposed to happen in the story, and you are therefore looking at a series of unfortunate events that happened to a guy who really wasn't supposed to be there at all. And that's what I think makes the Suzumiya Haruhi series so special. Of course, that's not to say that people aren't into the kamidera nature of Haruhi, or in fact, a lot of the stereotypical and tropey archetypes of the other side characters that are introduced in the series. But to me, Kyon is definitely the one character that really makes Suzumiya Haruhi special, even to this day. Because again, the way that Tanikawa Nagara decided to draw Kyon was so unique back in the day that there are actually a lot, and I mean a lot, of light novel series that tried to replicate Suzumiya Haruhi but just couldn't really do it because they kept falling into the very tropes that Kyun, the main character of this one show, was making fun of within that one show. Okay, Attack on Titan. People hyped up the whole storyline and characters, and I agree that it was good, but I've never heard an anime be mentioned that much before. Listen, my boy, I felt the same way. I felt the same way when I watched the first season, and then I dropped season 2 part 1 kind of halfway through because I wasn't honestly feeling it all that much. And then I kind of fell behind for a little bit, and season 2 part 2 came out, and then season 3 came out, and now we're awaiting season 4. But I was like, you know what? This series I'm hearing so freaking much, not just from my audience, but from other anitubers, from other anime enthusiasts that I respect the opinions of quite a bit. So I'm like, okay, if all of these people who I know have good taste are talking about this show, then you know what? I'll give it a go. And I caught up to it, and honestly, dude, I think that Attack on Titan is one of the few rare occurrences of a modern series going towards being a classic masterpiece. Because weirdly enough, these first 3 seasons, especially of the anime, actually are nothing more than a really, really long build-up. And that sounds bad from an outside perspective. That sounds bad. That's like, oh, you took 3 seasons to build up to the climax of a show. But the thing is that this build-up was done so meticulously and so thoroughly that you're having to just sit through all of this stuff without a question, and the payoff, I feel, at the end, especially of season 3, awaiting on the final season, is just so huge that you can't not like it. Everything about the characters relationships, just the world building, the insane world building, especially in season 3, just keeps building on and on and on and on, and all of these new elements are introduced steadily, giving you enough time to take in each new part of the story, and therefore, having seen everything that the series has to offer by the end of season 3, you are just completely stuck in this one world. I know it's really hard to explain, and I know it's gonna seem like a little bit of a cop-out when I just say, just go watch the anime, but in all honesty, just go watch the anime. Like, this is one of the few popular shows today that I genuinely feel deserves the respect, and I absolutely disagree with the whole fact of Attack on Titan being an overrated show. I think it is perfectly rated, and we're all excited for season 4, so hey, what can I say? Anohana. Everybody loved it for being cute and sad, but it was actually pretty bad and irritating. I don't know about you, but I've never heard of anybody saying, I loved Anohana because it was cute. I definitely do not remember the cute elements of Anohana. Were there even any cute elements of Anohana? That story was pretty fucking sad from start to finish. And I've heard this being debated so many times, not just with Anohana, but things like Your Lie in April and Clanad and Angel Beats and all of these quote-unquote melodramatic shows that are just there for a sob fest, for a cry fest. And to those people, I say, well, you're clearly just not into those kinds of drama shows, because I don't see what the problem is with a drama show being dramatic. Perhaps a lot of people think those kinds of shows are melodramatic because they've just seen so many drama shows, but I've seen a lot of drama shows too, both in anime and other Western media, and it's still great. Like, I still love it. Yes, it makes me feel sad, but that is an experience that I sought out in this particular series. I wasn't gonna go into Anohana expecting a fucking K-On! Clone. Anohana was not only beautifully written, but also each character was really thoroughly explored, both emotionally and just within each other's character developments and character relationships with everybody else. And you know what? I genuinely think that Anohana is one of the few drama shows from back in the day that still stands up to the test of time. Your Name. No character development, a barely coherent plot, melodramatic, etc. A silent voice is way better, but still rated lower on Mal. Okay, if you've seen my videos, then you know that I have constantly said that Your Name is not as good as A Silent Voice. A Silent Voice, I think, was just a better show. But when I say that, that doesn't necessarily mean that I hated Your Name. In fact, I thought Your Name was a fucking awesome movie. But I don't understand this tweet. No character development? Did we watch the same movie? Maybe your idea of character development is like a fucking tournament arc in a shonen, but when it comes to drama romance shows, especially Shinkai Makoto movies, which are usually very much of a slow burner, there was quite a bit of character development, dude. Both Mitsuha and Taki went through each other's lives and used each other's lives when swapping bodies with one another to go through their own character developments, to go through their own problems that they had in their world. What I found really interesting about the character development in Your Name especially is that they used another character's life to reflect on their own, and that's really hard to do, especially in a movie time frame. Sure, when it comes to the plot, the ending was a little bit strange, I must admit. Like, you know, there really is no explanation as to why or how that happened, but the whole point of especially Shinkai Makoto movies is not the logic within a story. In fact, almost all Shinkai and Makoto movies don't have a lot of logic that resonate with real life, because that's not the point of his movies. The point of his movies is to look at a very fantasy-like, very dreamscape-like story and feel an emotion that you can relate to in real life. In the case with Your Name, or rather almost all of Shinkai Makoto movies, is this idea of a long-distance relationship, because Shinkai Makoto himself was in a long-distance relationship for the longest time. So he knows what it's like to go through these trials and tribulations that comes with long-distance relationships. This idea of you having to live your own life while thinking about somebody else who you have no general access to. That's why I still think to this day that 5 centimeters per second is such an underrated movie, because to me, that movie is not enjoyable for people who never experienced long-distance relationships. And as someone who did personally, that movie and Your Name hits me like a fucking bombshell, my dude. And again, this whole idea of it being melodramatic. Yeah, no shit, dude. It's a fucking drama story. What do you expect? I want to ask these people what the fuck is not melodramatic at this point. The most overrated for me is Re:Zero. Subaru isn't that likable. I know that's how people would really react in his situation, but that doesn't mean it's entertaining. Really? Because that was the one thing that I found entertaining about Re:Zero, is that Subaru's reactions to everything that happens to him is very real-like, is what a normal person in real life would react. And to me, that is such a nice breath of fresh air, especially in the isekai genre, because a lot of these types of fantasy stories are power fantasies. It's this idea of you being the most powerful being in the story, and there is really no real life human emotion that is attached to these characters, because you're not watching these stories for that kind of feeling. You're watching it just to be like, fuck yeah, this guy's a badass, and I want to relate to this guy because I want to be a badass. Whereas Re:Zero is the complete opposite of that. Re:Zero is a very real life-like situation, especially if you are looking at it through the eyes of Subaru, because again, he isn't the most powerful being. In fact, he's usually the weakest being in the entire series, and a lot of terrible shit happens to him, and the way that his mind fucking collapses every time, the way that he overthinks things, the way how he gets paranoid, the way how he feels about certain characters and certain people in his life, in his new life, in this new world, is very real-like, is very much what me or you or any person would react in that situation. And I find that to be really refreshing, because finally I can actually look at a character where I'm like, dude, I genuinely fucking feel sorry for you. Yeah, sure, there are a lot of situations, especially later in the series, where, you know, it is kind of Subaru's fault that he got into that shit, but, you know, again, humans make mistakes, none of us are perfect, and, you know, a story like a power fantasy, for example, would never ever show those kinds of mistakes in realistic ways, and therefore it's fucking boring to me because it's so predictable. Onichichi, no plot, bad characters, disgusting protagonist, and it's somehow still got 7 out of 10 on Mal. Yeah, if you watch my hentai tier list video, you know that shit is D tier at best, my dude. I agree with this one. Death Note. The plot is way more complicated than the entire Kingdom Hearts franchise combined. Only Light, L, and Duke are praised, along with the potato chip scene. Light's character development, never heard of that? What? I genuinely want to give you the clown card in this episode. I genuinely want to accept, I want you to accept this clown card, because it is, you just fucking broke yourself. First of all, the plot is not as complicated as Kingdom Hearts, okay? Don't even fucking compare it to Kingdom Hearts. The plot, in fact, is very fucking straightforward if you think about it. Like, it's just Light has a Death Note, he goes insane even though he had good intentions from the beginning, and some guy named L and the police department want to find this killer. It's a cat and mouse situation. I just explained all of Death Note in like 30 seconds. And this point of only Light, L, and Duke are praised? Again, I don't think you watched more than 3 episodes of Death Note, because almost everybody is praised in that show. Like, I've never heard of anybody bad-mouthing Light's dad, or Misa, or Nier, or, you know, any of the fucking detectives that are with Light's dad from start to finish trying to catch Kira. And the whole thing with the potato chip scene, that's just a fucking overrated meme, okay? That was created by people who have only ever seen Death Note and think that that is one of the most amazing pieces of animation to ever be created, when it's far from the fucking truth. And Light's character development? Again, did you watch the same anime? Light's character development is pretty fucking simple from the get-go. He picks up a Death Note, he learns about its powers, he wants to do good for society by killing all of these evil villains, but then as he does that more and more evil intentions start to come out, and he turns into the villain that he always wanted to kill. And from there, it's a battle of wits between the genius Light and the genius L in this intense as fuck psychological cat and mouse story. Like, some of these people don't know how to fucking formulate an argument. Like, what the fuck? Elfin Lee, around 9 years ago when I started to watch anime, everyone recommended it to me, saying that it was a must-watch and that it was really profound and mature with one of the best openings ever. I almost died of laughter at how silly it was. Okay, I want to ask you, what is silly about Elfin Lee? Is it the fact that it's an old animation? Because you can't really criticize it on that, considering it was made fucking 15 years ago. It's based off a manga from 2002, so clearly the art style and the animation style is stuck in that era. Do you think that the opening is silly? Because I still think that's one of the most beautiful anime openings ever, in my opinion. Or are you criticizing it for the edgy factor that it had in the story? Because yes, it did definitely have an edgy factor, but the thing is, again, back when Elfin Lee was made in 2004, or even if you go back to 2002 from when the original manga was serializing, a series like that was that gruesome and that brutal, especially when it came to gore and a lot of really heavy psychological issues that the series addressed, there was really no series that did it in that vivid of a way, in that brutal of a way. Like, I've seen a lot of fucking edgy ass shows that try to be violent for the sake of violent, or deep and psychological for the sake of being psychologically traumatizing, and to this day, the fucking puppy scene in Elfin Lee still fucking traumatizes me. I'm not gonna say any more of that in case you've never seen Elfin Lee, but just, if you do decide to go watch it, which I highly recommend you do, it's a fucking fantastic series, just be prepared for that, because that mentally fucking scarred me when I first saw that. Again, there are so many people who don't realize that there are so many edgy type of series modern, like currently right now, that were actually influenced by series like Elfin Lee. So it's kind of bullshit if you think about it. That's like listening to a One Direction cover of a Beatles song and saying that the Beatles copied One Direction. Like, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, if that makes sense. Probably Mirai Nikki, and it isn't even that highly regarded. It seems to take itself seriously with the psychological aspects and developments, but the character decisions don't make sense and seem misplaced. It's filled with inconsistencies and plot holes filled. Okay, I definitely will agree with you in saying that Mirai Nikki isn't all of that. I did like it at first, I will admit, I did like it at first when it first came out, but after rewatching it a couple of times and after experiencing a few more series similar to that, I definitely do see all of the problems that persist in Mirai Nikki, and this tweet actually nails it on the head pretty damn well. I think as well that the biggest problem I have with Mirai Nikki personally is the way that a lot of the audience members' reactions to Yuno Gasai is very much stuck within the whole OMG, she's a hot yandere. When in fact, the one thing that I especially loved about Yuno Gasai while I was watching it is not so much the whole OMG, yandere is so hot aspect, but rather her backstory. I found that to be really fucking interesting, especially when you compare it to any of the backstories of any of the other characters in the show, because those fucking barely exist if you think about it. But Yuno's backstory actually makes a whole lot of sense as to why she turns out the way she does, but unfortunately, fans of Yuno Gasai don't fucking care about her backstory. They only care about the fact that she loves the fucking main character and is a crazy bitch with pink hair and tits. Like, Great job, guys. Also, Yuki is one of the most irritating and fucking unpredictably retarded main characters in a story that I have ever seen. So, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the series, if you couldn't catch my drift. Cowboy Bebop, it was slow, boring, and uneventful. Even the fight between Spike and the old dude, forgot his name, was anticlimactic. They killed off Julie, but because I barely got to know her, I didn't really care. Same with Spike's death. He wasn't an interesting guy to me. What the fuck are you talking about, bruh? Ladies and gentlemen, it is a very special moment where I would like to present this tweet with the award that I would like to call the Waifu Award. Because Waifu, of course, stands for, wow, alright, I fucked up. Cowboy Bebop was boring and uneventful? We did not watch the same anime. Okay, maybe you mean that in the sense that it is an episodic series, especially earlier on in the show. Each episode has its own contained story with an overarching plot surrounding it. But saying that Cowboy Bebop was uneventful is just wrong. It's just wrong because there are plenty of things that happen in Cowboy Bebop. In fact, you pointed out 3 things in this tweet. 3 big events that happened in this tweet. The fight with Spike and the old dude, which I also forgot the name of, Julie's death, and Spike's death. Those 3 scenes just by themselves were pretty fucking eventful, dude. Like, how could you not like the fight scenes in Cowboy Bebop? Like, yeah, sure, I don't think it's the most amazing series ever either, but for a series that was made 20 fucking years ago to this day, it's still pretty fucking glorious to look at. Like, the fight choreography in Cowboy Bebop still stands up to the test of time, especially when you compare it to all these other shows that came out. And without giving too much away, the fact that you didn't relate to Julie when she died, that's just your problem, because the series did a pretty good job to give you plenty of time to really connect with this character. And same goes with Spike as well. Like Julie, yeah, but fucking Spike? You weren't fucking sad about Spike's death, my dude? What the fuck? Your Lie in April. I went in expecting a touching story, but it ended up being extremely predictable and didn't hit me nearly as hard as something like Anohana did. Okay, concerning this tweet, I want to ask this question. What makes Your Lie in April predictable? Like, what about Your Lie in April did you find predictable? Was it the fact that you were fully expecting a death to happen at the end? Or was it the fact that you were fully expecting Arima Corsair to get over his past traumas and move on as a musician? Like, what part about that was predictable? Because let me tell you something, just because a story is predictable, it doesn't make it not entertaining. Why the fuck then would anybody watch superhero movies? Why the fuck would anybody watch shonen stories if they thought that predictable equals boring? I feel like I've made this comparison before, but again, just because you know what's going to happen, it doesn't make the payoff instantaneously feel good for you. Or in the case with things like Your Lie in April, the payoff to be instantaneously sad. Because yes, I definitely do understand that there is a whole feeling of excitement when it comes to unpredictable storylines, but at the same time, an unpredictable storyline is a double-edged sword. It can be the most amazing fucking thing ever, or it can be the most bullshit thing ever. And a lot of authors want to go with the predictable route of storytelling because they don't want to play around with that double-edged sword, or in the case with the author of Your Lie in April, knows how to make a really fucking entertainingly deep, predictable story. Like, yes, of course, everybody was expecting that one character to die at the end. Everybody was expecting Corsair to get over his traumas that he had with his mum at the end. But the way that that show presented that storytelling was so fucking beautiful. And if you say that that series just, in terms of its aesthetics, in terms of its sound design, in terms of its animation, wasn't nice or pretty or beautiful, then there's seriously something fucking wrong with you. And I would love to know what you think is beautiful or pretty in terms of aesthetics. And I think, again, comparing Anohana to Your Lie in April is also kind of not fair because you clearly watched Anohana first. And so you knew what was going to happen in Your Lie in April. But what if it was the other way around? Would you have said that Anohana was predictable because it's exactly like Your Lie in April? Steins Gate. The characters were absolutely dreadful to watch. None of them were interesting or likable. Every event I remember happening seemed forced. In other words, the plot didn't flow at all. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That was, I'm sorry. That was just one of the shittiest opinions I've ever heard. Holy crap. Steins Gate is the definition of a plot flowing fucking seamlessly smooth. The fact that you didn't think that the plot of Steins Gate wasn't smooth, or that it didn't flow at all, means that you have no fucking idea how to write a story. Because the whole reason why people still talk about Steins Gate to this day, why so many people regard it as a fucking classic in sci-fi storytelling, is because the characters are all likable, because the series gave us plenty of time to not only explain the plot intricately, but also make us give a lot of empathy and sympathy towards all of these characters. But because Steins Gate also has one of the most amazing fucking plot twists in modern anime. Like, in terms of plot twists in anime, I would put it up with Urasawa Naoki series, like Monster and 20th Century Boys. Like, it's that level of holy shit. Sure, Steins Gate, the first 12 to 13 episodes are quite slow. It's a little bit of a slow burner, but that is also necessary because the plot is so intricate and there are so many things that you, as the viewer, need to be paying attention to, because it creates a whole lot of impact in the second half of the story. And you saying that there were some plot events that seemed forced, well, maybe it seemed forced because you weren't paying attention in the first half, because from my recollection, everything that happens in the second half of Steins Gate is fully explained or foreshadowed in the first half. And that's what makes the plot of Steins Gate so fucking amazingly written. Like, you have to be joking, right? Like, with this tweet, like, you have to be joking. You must be taking the piss, because if you're seriously thinking that this opinion right here is correct in any way, you just need to stop watching anime. No Game No Life, because everyone cries about no second season. I guess it has some kind of hype. Overall, nice idea but horribly executed. Sora wins his first game with a royal straight flush because he's good at games, lol. The chess game was an absolute clusterfuck. You know, there is a reason why people want a second season of No Game No Life, because A, it was genuinely a pretty entertaining, cool show, especially from when it came out, and B, because it's like, look at this art. How does that not make you feel like you just put cocaine in your eyes? Also, when it comes to the royal straight flush of the first game of poker that Sora does in the story, or even the chess game that Sora and Shiro does to win over one of the kingdoms, is fully explained because Sora cheats to win at games, like they explained in the show. The whole point of that first poker game is to show you that, yes, Sora and Shiro don't play the game how it's supposed to be. They cheat their way using their logic of games and the rules of a game. And that's what makes the show interesting. Sora didn't magically get a royal straight flush because he used the fucking power of friendship. No, he actually used his brain. He used his ability of understanding the rules of a game and how a game works to bend those rules and test the limits of those rules, and therefore use that to his advantage to seemingly create this magical scenario of, oh shit, I have a royal straight flush. And I don't know how you don't get that, because they explained it pretty fucking clearly in the story. And the same goes with the chess game. The whole reason why that show is so well done is because, again, they explain everything. It's not just bullshit shonen power-ups for the sake of bullshit shonen power-ups. These are things that you could probably do in real life if you set it up correctly. Do I want a season 2 of No Game No Life? Sure, I'm not gonna piss my pants about it, but hey, it'd be nice because it's a pretty decent show. I mean, definitely fucking way better than Clockwork Planet, which the same author did. Personally, NGE was so hard to get through because I kept falling asleep, no joke. The show revolves around giant robot death fights and Shinji's daddy issues, but none of the other shit gets explained, like the Human Instrumentality Project, the Spear of Longinus, etc. I held out for that. See, this is a person who, again, clearly wasn't paying attention to the story of NGE, because they explained everything. They explained the Human Instrumentality Project. They explained the Spear of Longinus. And if you want to get a better explanation of both of those, then I would recommend you watch the end of Evangelion, because they fully explained it there as well. But they also explained it in the TV series too, just not in the most, you know, clear of ways. That definitely it was wrapped up neatly in a package that you kind of had to forcefully open up yourself, but they do explain it. It's not just there to create some kind of overarching plot. And no, the story isn't just about fucking robots fighting and Shinji's daddy issues. In fact, it is a story about the psychological traumas and developments that young kids go through when put into impossibly perilous situations, like Shinji getting in the fucking robot. Like the fact that there are YouTubers out there who can create entire analysis videos on just one particular scene or one particular character in one particular scene goes to show that the deepness of NGE extends beyond what is conventionally seen in anime. And that's why, for a lot of people, NGE is still talked about to this day and is considered a masterpiece. Do I think it's the greatest fucking anime ever made? No, I personally don't. I saw a lot of issues with it personally, but I'm not going to completely denounce the fact that it is a very deep and thoroughly explanatory series that you really need to dig yourself into personally to get a better understanding of. I mean, you know what? Just for you, I'll leave a link to a page that fully explains what the Human Instrumentality Project is, what the Spear of Longinus is, if you can't be bothered to watch End of Evangelion. But if not, go and watch End of Evangelion. It's a fucking awesome movie. And finally, overrated, all anime. Also not overrated, all anime. Reason? Everyone has different opinions. What you enjoy is not going to be what someone else enjoys. A fan base for any show can be both fun and annoying. And you know what? Well said, my boy. I think we'll end it there. Guys, thank you once again for joining into another episode of Let's Fight. I really enjoyed this one. Hopefully, after this video, you won't leave a bunch of so-and-so anime is overrated, so-and-so anime is underrated type of opinions, because I'm not gonna fucking take them, okay? This video was here to show you that you can do overrated and underrated opinions if you give me a fucking opinion. But other than that, try and avoid it because I want to keep this series still fresh. I don't want to put it in the grave just yet like I did with every other series, so do yourself a favor and come up with a good one if you want to be featured in the next video. But if you want to get a chances to be featured in the next Let's Fight episode, then the best place to do it is over on my Twitter. Go over to my Twitter, use the hashtag Let's Fight, and leave your unpopular opinions and spicy hot takes on anything anime and otaku related, and if it's good enough, I'll pick it up and I'll fucking fight you to it. But I appreciate you guys for watching until the very end. If you'd like to check out the previous episodes or in fact all of the episodes, then I'll leave the playlist to it in the description below and also at the end card of this video, so definitely go and check it out. Anyways guys, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Like and favorite if you enjoy, subscribe for Running Banda. Keep watching anime. Tane!